This one I'm super excited about. We get some great guests, and we've got a great one for you today. Feel free to say hello in the chat if you feel inclined to do so. I will get us started there. Coming in from the For Good Cause home headquarters here in Kennesaw, Georgia. We're going to start with some introductions, and I will start with myself. I am Ronald Pruitt. I'm the president and founder of For Good Cause. We are a fundraising CRM that really specializes in helping nonprofits build recurring, reliable revenue, especially through monthly giving. Got clients all over the U.S. and even all the way out to Guam now, Danielle. So that's pretty exciting for us. If you're unfamiliar with For a Good Cause, I'll drop a link here for you. We certainly hope that you'll check us out. But let's get to the guest. Let's get to what you're here for today. And we've got Danielle Locke here. Danielle, I'm just so excited to have you here with us today. We have worked together, I think for many years on various projects, and you've helped some of our clients, extend their fundraising and get smarter about it. And you're one of the smartest folks that we know. We're certainly glad to have you here. And I'm really excited about your topic about donor data. One of the things that we're kind of focused on right now at For Good Cause is building a lot of new features for our donor database, and also, looking to integrate with a lot of other donor databases out there. So I'm curious about your thoughts on donor data and how to get the most out of it. So please take it away. And if you need anything, just let me drop something in the chat for you or anything like that. And guys, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I'm sure we'll have time at the end, but if something pops up that looks interesting, Dana, I'll throw it your way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ron. I am super excited to be here. I think the most ironic thing is that while I specialize in campaign fundraising and certainly major donor fundraising and relationships, it actually always comes back to the data and the quality of your data and your ability to track not just your relationship, but also the different interactions that you're having with your donors. So in this ether world of relationships and personal contacts and connections, we bring it back to data, which is the basis of all of that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. Hi, I'm Danielle Locke. I am the founder and CEO of Locke Step Partners. I am a philanthropic partner. I founded Locke Step Partners 8 years ago in 2018, pre-COVID. And what I say is that our organization, we empower nonprofit leaders and donors to achieve more than they ever thought possible. What does that look like? It looks like managing a capital campaign that raised more than $8.5 million. We finished that last year. We're doing another one about an hour away that hit 630,000 in the first 6 months. It's close to 900,000 now. Crafting resilient fundraising programs for organizations that are ready to scale to the next level, or sitting with a grieving family looking to establish a memorial scholarship. Whatever the case might be, I and my team are there to help philanthropy grow, whether it's on the nonprofit or the donor side. All right, now I have to figure out how to make this thing advance.
Just mouse over it.
There it is. Got it.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so quick, would love to see some comments in the chat, but who here is responsible for your donor data? And how many of you are, just throw it in the chat, like me, I do donor cultivation, any of that, is that your role? I'll give you a minute to do that. Also think about, do you have a CRM system? So in many cases, right, you're using For a Good Cause, which is one of, I love Sarah, thank you. You're in charge of all things donors, absolutely. But you wear lots of different hats. But, For a Good Cause is a system that we recommend quite a bit. I love the simplicity of it. Ron's built a great system. Are you tracking donor data in it? If not, do you not have a system, right? If you're just using Excel, throw Excel in the chat, because that's always a great starting point. But I'd love to try to get us farther than there. All right, good. Barry is is the donor person, and Mary is in charge. Uses for good cause, love it. Yes, and it's only getting better. We love partnering with Ron to improve the services. So great. Well, thank you all for being here. I am a bit of obsessed with Highland cows right now, so that's just my my picture there. So I've been in fundraising 25 years. I've worked for large institutions like the Cleveland Clinic. I've worked for tiny nonprofits where I built my own desk out of a door and 2 filing cabinets. So I definitely have been where you are. And I'm going to give you some real life examples of how donor data and the quality of your data can either make or break your fundraising. And I have probably done all of these, or at least my clients have done many of them, right? So I have sent a card to a deceased spouse, right? You do that birthday card, trying to build that relationship, but your data is wrong and you have the wrong birthday in there. And so we sent a birthday card to a deceased husband. Donor calls to see if you received their donation because they didn't get their thank you letter. The thank you letter goes to the program officer's home instead of the grant funder that gave you the grant. You print 1,000 letters with the wrong salutation and have to start over. That is heartbreaking. And yes, I have done that. 4 letters go to the same household. Not a terrible thing, but certainly a waste of time, money, postage, and materials. When you've got a family who all lives in the same house, maybe it's the grandparents, the mom and dad, children in their 20s, and you send a thank you or appeal letter to all of them, right? That there's a better way to do that. But that certainly needs to be built into your system to make it easy for you to be able to do that. Your new ED, your new executive director can't find any information about their donors. They're totally starting from scratch. They don't know who any of these people are. All your data is in various Excel spreadsheets. This is the number one that I see, right? You've got your donors, you've got your volunteers, your ticket purchasers, your members, your in-kind donors, the event sponsors, the people that come to your event. All of those are in different spreadsheets and very often in different systems, and they don't talk to each other. You invite a past board member to a new donor reception. So you've got someone who was a board member like myself, has been around 10 years, 5 or 10 years or so, has given a great deal to the organization, maybe rolled off the board a couple of years ago, and now you're sending them an invitation to come to a new donor event because the records don't really indicate that they have a long-standing relationship with the organization. You're new, the executive director's new. It's a simple mistake, but from that donor's perspective, it feels like a punch in the gut that you don't know of or respect the relationship, the difference that they made in the organization. Of course, we never want to mail to a do not send donor. I've definitely gotten those phone calls or emails back from a donor that is like, I told you to take me off your list. I don't want all your emails. You've got 10,000 profiles, but only 300 donors, right? So when your board members look at your list, they're like, we should be raising X amount of money. If these 10,000 people all gave $1, we could run this program. But profiles do not mean donors. And if you can't separate them in your data using tags or other identifying tools, then it just looks like you have a whole bunch of people that could and should be giving. It doesn't help you communicate that to anybody or manage what you're trying to do. Common mistakes that we see in donor data: misspelled names, of course, emails, incorrect emails, duplicate profiles. We all struggle with this, right? Same person, or they're a couple, or then they're in there together. So you've got Dave and Marie, and then you got a profile for Dave, and you got a profile for me, and then you've got one for the Anderson household, right? All the same people. Or of course, we've all had this where the name is Sam Hershey, and you assume it's a Mr., or the Mr. gets put in there when actually the name is Samantha. Definitely don't want that kind of error in your communication. Mr. James Davis instead of Mr. Davis James. Now, if it were me and I was naming my child, I might not give my child two first names, but these are things that you see in those names get swapped out in the donor list, and of course, then they get a letter that is addressed to them, first name, last name. Their work in their personal profiles. You've got one for each person. Sometimes that's appropriate to have a work profile for me and a personal profile for me, depending on how my giving is. But most often it's duplicative, and they don't want to get stuff at both places. Right person, wrong address, or if they're a snowbird, they're not getting that for months at a time. Right company, wrong contact. You don't have the current contact. This is the one I see the most often, or kind of up there with the top three, is your foundation program officer, your foundation contact is listed as the donor. So I have one client, we started working in their data, and you pull a list of their largest donors and they've got $25, $50, $150,000, and you're like, wow, this is great. And then you look into it a little bit more closely, and you see that it's actually a grant from a foundation, and that is the individual who is the contact person for that funder, not necessarily the donor themselves. And if you pull it and you don't take a close look at it and you publish it on your website or a donor list or your annual report, all of a sudden that program officer is listed as the donor and not the foundation, and that's just all kinds of bad news. Or then the employee, same thing, is listed as the 5-figure donor when the money really came from the corporation. So it's about relationship giving, it's about relationship establishment and cultivation, and making sure that you're really communicating with the right people. Inaccurate donor history, listed incorrectly as lapsed or new, no donor history. You can't do a wealth screening. So a lot of work that we do with nonprofits is to take their list and we run it through a tool like we have iWave. There's also Donor Search or Wealth Engine, where we take a list of your donors and we match it up against publicly available data to then tell us, giving trends for that person, what other organizations they've given to, an estimate of their financial capacity based on political giving history and real estate records, what boards they're on, all kinds of things. It's all public out there in the ether, and we can look at your donor list and match it. But if you don't have an address, all we need is a name and an address. And if you don't have an address for the person, you can't do any kind of wealth estimates of their capacity. Donations tracked under old campaigns. I did an LGL cleanup for a client, and all of their donations were linked to an old campaign. So instead of being tracked under 2024 donations, when they pulled the giving history or they pulled that report for that campaign, it was all going to 2020 to a 2022 campaign, which just makes everybody look bad. Donations miscategorized. They're under the wrong program. They're listed as restricted or unrestricted when they should be unrestricted. Sloppy notes, no notes at all. And definitely one of the other ones I'll flag is treating your CRM system as your accounting system, right? Think about your CRM as it's about relationships. It's about getting to know people and what they care about and who they are, so you can contact them and where their giving history is. But it should align with your accounting, but it's never going to be an entire accounting system. It's just not built for that. So it doesn't matter what system you're using. There are going to be differences between that and what you would see in QuickBooks. And I do see a lot of organizations either trying to use QuickBooks for their CRM, which is also not built for that, or trying to use their CRM to do all of their financial tracking. The financials in the CRM are simply about, did you reach your goal? What did you attain based on what you were trying to raise? How did each campaign do compared to other campaigns? This year's event versus last year's event, those kinds of planning tools, but not accounting tools. Feel free, if you have any questions, you cannot throw me off. So feel free to throw anything in there that you want, any questions that you have as I move along. I know we're kind of we're traveling in the weeds here, and that's okay, because this is the stuff that's really they're simple fixes that are really going to have a huge impact on your ability to build relationships and raise greater dollars. How good data and systems can propel your fundraising, right? So we talked about all the mistakes. We talked about how you can go forward, how this can really propel you, right? Avoid historical knowledge loss, right? So when you have staff turnover, when people come and go, right? Nonprofits, people are coming and going all the time. That institutional knowledge is going with them. Sometimes the donor relationship goes with them. So you want to make sure that you are capturing everything that's in their head in your system so that the next director of development or the next executive director or the next board chair can go in and understand the relationship with that and the history with that individual donor or funder. You want to keep it in one central place so it's not in different Excel spreadsheets or in different people's handwritten notes or in somebody's Outlook emails. One example of this is I did the $8.5 million capital campaign with an organization. Alicia was the executive director, and they had, I think, 4 CEOs in like 6 or 7 years through various reasons. There was some illness and things in there, but as she came in, there was no records. So first of all, she spent the first couple of years just trying to get them back in the black financially, but also there wasn't any donor information. So she really had to start over, getting to know who the donors are. We did a wealth screening. We did some research. We had a lot of one-on-ones with donors, but she had nothing to start with, right? Which puts you years behind in terms of trying to raise larger dollars. Donor details, photos, likes, dislikes, connections, affiliations. These are all things that you want to get into your donor data. I talk about developing donor relationships like dating, right? You meet a donor and you want to get to know them and you want to know what they care about, what moves them philanthropically, what legacy do they want to leave on this earth, what programs do you have that's of greatest interest to them. And you're building that relationship. You're getting to know their children and their grandchildren and what they're connected to. But again, you want to always make sure that it's out of your head and into a system where someone else can access it. I also really love a system where you can put their photo in it so that you can identify them when you're at that fundraiser or an event or something like that. We talked about the ability to track your success of your appeals, which message, what time of year, what program resulted in the best return, right? What did people respond to? You can only really tell that by a CRM system that can tell you what one campaign did versus another campaign. Track your relationship progress. Tracking your relationship progress, the touch points, when you last spoke to them, allows you to finally get momentum on increasing how often and how much donors are giving and not losing sight of introductions, right? We all go to those fundraisers, we go to the networking event and we meet somebody and we get a business card. And then it just kind of drifts, it goes on the corner of our desk and then it goes a little bit farther out. Getting it into your CRM, assigning someone to be in charge of it, adding them to your email list. These are things that starts the relationship and continues it going forward. It also allows you to identify opportunities, what connections, what trends, what things are working, what things are not, where your gifts are coming from, all kinds of things. And I might have it somewhere else in the presentation, but I'm just going to mention it right now. One of the great things that, in addition to For a Good Cause, we highly recommend Little Green Light as a back-end CRM system.
Danielle, hey, we lost your microphone.
Am I back?
Yes, you're back.
Okay,
there you
good.
go.
I was moving my mic because somebody started mowing the lawn outside.
No worries. Go for it. You were talking about you also work with LGL.
Yes. So we love LGL because it's a great back-end CRM, has great capacity. But one of the things a lot of people don't take advantage of is that every LGL account, in fact, every person that has a login gets a very specific email address, a CC email address for your LGL account. So when I'm emailing a donor and I CC my LGL account, it will copy that email and put it in the donor's record automatically. And so it creates a contact point. And so if I'm emailing with the donor and somebody else wants to go in and see where that relationship is, all of that communication will already be in there. So one little quick step that is available to you if you're using LGL that most people don't take advantage of, and it's totally free and included. So we talked about platforms, right? It's not really the platform, it's just how you use it. Don't dump your data in, garbage out. So many times I see nonprofits that they just connect their systems, right? And they allow donor input data to be just connected to their CRM system. And so whatever the donor adds in, whatever profiles they make gets dumped into your system. So now all of a sudden you get duplicate records with, Bob Smith, William Smith, William M. Smith, right? It all depends on what that donor decided to call themselves that day when they were making their donation or buying their event tickets. So just really thinking about what you're going to get out and how you're going to use that data. That's really the first step, is to say, okay, how am I going to use this in the future? And maybe you don't know, but LGL is a great one for having lots of reports and things. So when entering your data, like I said, always think about how you're going to get it out. And reports, donor appeals, event invitations, board giving reports, right? Like, how are you going to look at your data later and report out to your board how you're doing? Or, are you going to be able to pull an event list of people that have given to you over the last 5 years and you want to invite them to your 10th anniversary party? So that's the kind of things you want to look for when you're putting data in. And then, of course, do your systems integrate or talk to each other, or using Zapier? Again, we're all looking for ways to save time and energy and to be more efficient. So, these connections, again, For a Good Cause is great because it has great integrations, and Ron's always looking to add more integrations, which is very exciting. So, does it connect with Constant Contact or MailChimp? Do you have LGL connected to your For a Good Cause, which is coming? Your ticket purchase system, your Eventbrite, your member database, right? All these places. Think about, one great exercise is to take a moment with you and your team, maybe your board or your staff, and say, where are all the places that we have information? All of it should sit in your CRM. You should be able to do everything in your CRM system. If you are exporting everything and then manipulating it in Excel spreadsheets, you're doing yourself an incredible disservice, because the corrections and manipulations that you make in this list are not going to be in the master list, and you're going to have to repeat that over and over again, or someone else is not going to see it. So in most cases, your CRM system can be adjusted to fit your needs. You might not know how to do it, but again, great systems. Ron will help you. LGL, they all have, office hours and education and free webinars that tell you how to edit your system to do the things that you want. I've used Little Green Light for event registrations, free events, volunteer hours, ticket purchases, in-kind donations, membership, everything. It can do everything. And I know, like, we've used For a Good Cause on the front end to capture, that information, and then built out different things on the back end using LGL. So use your system as wisely as you can. Save yourself time and effort by connecting them. Okay. What good systems can do for you? I just talked about it. Look at that. Reading right in. You can consolidate all of your lists, the Post-it notes, the files, everything into one location. And it's kind of fun and interesting. I myself have stacks of business cards sitting in front of me. All of that should be getting put into your CRM system so that you can mail to them, include them in your email newsletter, include them in your annual report mailing, invite them to your annual meeting. You want to get it all in one place. Great exercise for a virtual assistant or a summer intern. Great way to get all that in there. Automatically send updates and assign tasks to the team. Another great thing I love about Little Greenlight is you can set a goal, you can put in a task, you can assign that task to somebody. If I have a conversation with a donor today, I know they're going to be back from Florida in April, I can set a task for myself to call them in April when they get back. The system will automatically email me to say, hey, send an email to Mr. Smith. You can assign it to other people. So you've got other staff members in your LGL system, and maybe the executive director needs to call and do a thank you, or they're looking for a tax deductible receipt for their donation. You can ping your accounting person, even if they're external, and have them send a thank you letter with a tax deductible receipt for them. So you can do all of that within Little Greenlight. And most systems, even if you're not using Little Greenlight, will work the same. Ping reminders. Look at that. I'm like ahead of myself, but it's right there. Ping reminders, follow-ups, pledge payments. Pledge payments are great, right? You want to remind yourself there's always money sitting on the table. I see this happen a lot with capital campaigns. Someone makes a large pledge, they make the first payment, but you have to be the one to follow up on payments 2, 3, and 4. So put a reminder in your system to do that, and you can assign it to somebody else. That's okay. Delegation is beautiful, but get it in your system or auto copy your emails to track your communications with your donor. So again, whatever system you're using, even if it's just Excel, before you buy another tool, make sure that you can already do it inside For a Good Cause. If that's what you're using, make sure that you connect your tools and then you automate as much as possible. Always thinking about what you're going to do with the data when you get it out. Because for me, we do multi-million-dollar capital campaigns. And the first thing I do is go in and pull the donor list and do a wealth screening and look at the giving history of the donors, look at who their donors are, how much they're giving, what is the trend. And if you are not tracking well, those are the things that are going to give you the greatest difficulty if you're trying to do something bigger, or even if you're just trying to raise dollars. There's so many obstacles that can be overcome or avoided if you are careful about how you're building your data. So some best practices: capture the right donor information, okay? You want to save personal details, right? The name of their spouse, who they work for, did they go to Ohio University, birth date if you can get it, important anniversaries, do they snowbird, and if so, do you have their Florida location, their address? Names of grandkids, hobbies, do they fly a plane, do they do scrapbooking, their pet peeves, communication preferences, definitely. Do they like text? Do they like email? Do they like WhatsApp, right? So how do they prefer to be communicated with is like your baseline information you want to be capturing. Capture their donation details, right? Anything, and this is a great little change, right? If you've got someone opening your mail, you've got a front desk person that's entering donations, capture everything that comes with that check, right? Do they have what contact information, what address, what phone number is on the check? Did they include a note on the envelope? Is there a note inside? What did they say? Do they want it to be applied to a certain program? Do they just want you to say hi to the grants manager? Whatever that is in there, is that donor wanted you to know that. And so you want to both capture it as well as make sure that action is taken on whatever request they have. Track volunteer hours, in-kind donations. Your volunteers and your donors, your volunteers and your in-kind donors are first and foremost a great opportunity to convert someone into a donor or even into a legacy donor, because people that give up their time and if someone brings you diapers every week or once a month, they're also someone who is primed to also make a financial donation. And maybe not now, but maybe the time that they pass away, right? There's lots of opportunities there. So you want to make sure that you are capturing that connection and communicating with them. And then of course, CRM systems are great for tracking in memory or in honor of. Sending acknowledgments, you want to make sure that if someone sends a gift in memoriam, then not only do you send a donation acknowledgement to the person that made the donation, but also that you send, whether it's like one letter with all the donors listed, or you send an acknowledgement for every donation to the family that designated you to be the recipient. So again, in memoriam, and in honor are donations where you want to make sure that you're sending 2 thank you letters for every donation, because people want to know that. People want to know that they received, particularly if people are donating to you because of that person and they've never donated to you before. It's an opportunity for them to get to know you, and this is their very first experience with you, is whether or not they get a thank you note and whether or not the family member was made aware of the gift that they made, right? That's a disconnect that I want to say 90% of nonprofits don't have the functional capacity to make sure that happens, but it's a huge misstep in relationship building and cultivating new or growing donors. Track everybody: donors, volunteers, board members, past board members, current board members, prospective people, event attendees, program participants, people that rent your facilities, your elected officials, foundation reps, everybody that has seen, feel, touched your mission, has interest in your mission. You're thinking about stakeholders. And these aren't necessarily people that are going to convert into donors today, but there are people that have some level of experience with your organization and or passion for your mission. They get put into your system so that you can track your relationship building with them, track their conversion to donors, track your communications. Okay, tags. Tags are the most beautiful thing. I know Ron's got them built into For a Good Cause. They're incredibly great in Little Green Light. Most systems use tags, or they call them lists, or a variety of other terminology. But you want to make sure as much as you can that everybody in your list is tagged with something, if not multiple things, because this is how you're going to be able to pull your data later, right? So are they an alumni? Are they interested in cat and dog rescue? Are they interested in senior meals specifically? Are they a past board member? Did their child go through your childcare program? Are they an event attendee? Are they a committee member? All of these things is what tells you how their relationship, how they interact with you, right? What is their relationship? What level of relationship do they have with your organization? It's also how later on you're going to be able to pull a list of past board members to send a mailing to. Or in particular, the dream is to be able to say, okay, we need funding for our early childhood initiative. Here are the people that we've tagged who've donated or said they are interested in early childhood programming. Instead of mailing to 5,000 people and throwing spaghetti against the wall, I'm going to mail to these 50 people who said, or we know are interested in this specific program because we have a specific need and a goal right now. So much more efficient. The donor appreciates that level of awareness. You are going to save tons of money and definitely will raise more money with that level of targeting. And it just comes from when you put somebody in your system, you either create a tag if one is not appropriate, or you click on the tags that make sense to them. So when the time comes, you can pull those people back out. And just know that every system has a notes section, and notes are beautiful, but notes are not searchable. You can't pull tags, you can't pull reports from them, right? You have to have some mechanism within the system to be able to pull the report, and tags or lists are generally the way to do that. Adding stewards. So stewards, I always say, are like the donor's friend of the organization. It could be the CEO, could be the director of development, could be the program person, could be the person's in charge of senior meal delivery. It's whoever, could be a board member. It's whoever within the organization is responsible for curating that relationship with that donor. They're the person that sends the thank you letters and makes the phone calls. And in general, it's usually going to be a staff person. But as you move forward and become more sophisticated in your fundraising, you want to start to have a team of people that are doing that. Multiple different staff people, board members, even other stakeholders they become more involved in the relationship building with you. This is the one that I customize. We do a lot of work with Little Green Light, and we do a lot of customization. One of the things I always do is go in and build cultivation steps. And I've got this whole master thing that we do. But in general, and you can make it up however you want, but in general, the way that we do it is like levels 1 through 8. And, level 8 is they don't know who you are. Level 7 is they know you, but they don't care yet. 3 is they've come to an event and I'm making these up because it's not what they are. Somewhere in the middle, they know you, they've donated to you, maybe they volunteered some, all the way up to when someone gets tagged at a level 1, I know that they are ready for a solicitation. They're ready for an ask. The relationship is there. If you think about it in terms of dating, you've been curating that relationship, you've gone out on a lot of dates, you've gotten to know them and their family and their coworkers, and they volunteered, and you have this relationship, and they know that you guys are in a relationship. And now there's a moment at which they're ready for you to pop the question. There's a program, a service, a need that you know is going to speak to their heart, and you're going to put a level 1 on them because you know at some point that opportunity will present itself when they're ready to donate, when there's a need, a calling that they're ready to speak to or respond to. So those cultivation steps I find really useful because then you can pull all the ones and be like, all right, I need to call down to the number 1s. Or the number 5s are not quite there, but I'm going to send them the annual report and give them an update, right? So you know where people are. And again, just like tags, you're pulling people at different stages of relationship building, and then you know how to communicate with them. And then track your communications consistently. Again, I talked about using the auto carbon copy in LGL. Track your touch points. When you send a thank you, when you invite them, when you call them, when you send them an email, after you meet with them, after you have breakfast, you come back, you put some notes in. There's a lot of automation there, so don't be afraid of it. One of the great tips that I can give you is it doesn't always have to be all on you. I had a client who was building out in Little Green Light, and they had, it was a small staff of like 5, but they had all of their staff working in Little Green Lights to update it and create records. In particular, there was a new director of programming. It was a youth orchestra. So this gentleman's job was to go out to all the school districts and meet with the orchestra and choral directors and meet with the school principals and the superintendents and the people in the community and families. And so he had all the relationships in the community. And then, get lost in some notes. So we set a standard that every time that individual came back to the office or went home after all of his meetings, he would add all that information into their CRM system, which I think happened to be Little Green Light, so that then those people get added, right? People that care about the mission, the student teachers and all of that are now in the loop. They're getting the email newsletter, they're getting the communication, they're getting the event invitations, because he who's in the community was able to identify those people and get them into a system, which then operationally then gets those people in the loop to then have the relationship built at a greater level. And then we talked about integration as much as you can so that you're not doing double duty and you're not doing multiple reports on the same thing. All right, so bringing it on home, keeping your data clean and consistent. Establish a consistent data process, right? Naming conventions, do you use Mr. or Mrs.? Do you use a period? Do you not? How are you putting in the addresses? What tags do you use? One of the dangers of having 4 or 5 people in your CRM system is that people like to do their own thing. So you want to make sure that there is some guidelines for how you're all going to do it the same. And again, I'm a big fan of technology and AI. I'm a Gen X / millennial, so I'd love to use the technology. You can record a Loom video, and as you're entering in a new record, show other people how you do it. There's a platform called Scribe, I think Loom does it as well, which will write up everything that you do on screen, and then you can give that to your team. Whatever mechanism you're using to make sure that you're all doing it the same way, so that, again, that you don't have as much duplication and error. Clean your data, every year, every other year. Just take it in chunks, utilize other team members, go through all the people that came to a certain event, look at them, because again, it all starts and ends with good data. And so the more you can spend time in there, massaging it, cleaning it, always making sure that it is top notch. It's never gonna be perfect, but you try to get it as close as possible. Limiting your edit access, providing SOS, standard operating procedures, train your staff, avoid workarounds. This is what I just said. Limit exports. If it can't be done in your CRM, then you need to reconfigure your process, because 90% of the time you should be able to do whatever you're doing in the CRM system, and not, exporting it. And then subscribe to an obituary site like Legacy, so you get daily updates. You make sure that you're not mailing to donors that have passed away, and provide constituents with a form to update their record. So I love little For Good Cause. For Good Cause does allow donors to update their own records and do things. So that's a great opportunity to leverage donors to be able to support and update their information and keep everything accurate. Hold on. Yep. Okay, hot tips. Oh, I love this. Okay, so a couple of hot tips. Run a weekly report of your donations. So whether you're getting 50, which would be great, or you're getting 5, at the end of every week, whether you or a volunteer or a team member runs a report of the donations that came in that week, even if they're grant payments, run the report, review the names, amounts, programs they sponsored, get to know your donors, look for patterns. Trust me, I, way back in the day, started doing this. I would have 4,000 records, and the brain is an amazing pattern finder. And so you'll start seeing repetitive names. You'll start saying, is that person related to this person? Or that person just gave? Or, oh, I think they work for Sherwin-Williams and Sherwin-Williams just gave. Is that why? You will see it. I promise you, you will see it. So make it a practice, print that report, get it emailed to you, look at it, review it, look for opportunities. I love to set Google alerts on my donors and my board members and prospects. You just type in their name or their name, their company. So when good things happen, they get promoted, or their son scores the touchdown at the Friday game, you get that alert. And it's another great way to build connection and relationships with people. Leveraging wall screenings like iWave and Donor Search we talked about. And then again, this is why we love For Good Cause, because recurring donations, monthly recurring donations, even if they're not monthly, but recurring donations is where it's at. It creates accessible giving for your donors. Someone who, like myself, who couldn't cut a check, for $100 a month, can do $10 or $20 a month over a year period, right? It's more consistent, more reliable, larger amounts of dollars for your nonprofit, as well as for me as a donor, $10 or $20 a month is a much more accessible amount for me, and I can still have a greater level of income or greater level of impact. And two, recurring donations are kind of like magazine subscriptions that you forget. So, and I say this all the time, so many organizations, 75% of nonprofits out there are not taking advantage of recurring donations. Great thing about this system is that Ron's got it built in, it's automatic, it's beautifully done, and everyone will be happy that you have made this happen. So if you're not using a system that allows you for recurring donations, that's probably my number 2 tip, is to get into a system that allows you to functionally offer recurring donations for your donors. Okay, so as we wrap up, take the time to think about how this information is going to be helpful in isolating groups, identifying people, researching gift history, running reports, cultivating relationships. How are you going to want to get this information out later? Tag, group, label accordingly, and then create events, appeals, groups, different ways to structure your data so that you can then pull it out later and use it to make decisions. And then this is just an exercise, which I will not force you to go through right now, but this is a great tool to go through with your team or your board, your volunteers, right? Which is, does your donor data cut the mustard, right? Are you using a system? How are you using? What is the process to get it in? Can you run, here's the test, right? Can you run reports of your last donors? How far back can you go? Can you look up who's lapsed? Can you find your most loyal donors, your top 25 individual donors? Do you have 100% board giving, right? These are all things that you want to be able to know. And does your data allow you to do that? So two things I'll mention is that I have given Ron one document, which is a donor profile sample. It's a piece that I use that's got all kinds of categories. This is a hard copy version, but this is essentially what you want to try to build out in your CRM system so that you can see, right? Like this is the kind of profile that tells me, what do they care about? Are they grandparents? Are they a widow? Where do they live? Where do they snowbird, right? These are all things that helps you build a relationship with somebody. So that's a great sample there. The other thing that I've given him is a document on all the ways to find hidden gems in your donor database, because I am firmly stand on the fact that every organization that's more than a couple of years old has hidden gems in their data. You have people that have capacity that maybe you haven't curated that relationship with. They made one donation, they came to an event and they kind of disappeared. Take a look at your data, clean it up. Can you run lists? Who are your most loyal? Who are your not just the biggest donors, but people that have given most consistently over time? Has your board given 100%? Right? Can you pull lists of these things? Because there is hidden gold in there. Every single organization I've ever worked with has hidden gold. They're always like, I don't have any big donors. We don't have capacity. My board doesn't know anybody, but you do. It's in there. You just have to look at it in a different way and make it more accessible to find it in the future, or to find for other people to be able to find it. So it's in there.
And Danielle, I've dropped those docs on the right.
See that. Thank you, sir.
All you got to do is click download and you can grab those documents for yourself. So I appreciate you handing out those resources.
All right. And so what is on your to-do list as we wrap it up, right? Get our CRM system. I will die on that vine. You need to have some kind of system for your data. God bless Excel, but Excel is not a CRM system. Set it up, create your profiles as detailed as you can, create groups and tags, create your campaigns so you can track 1 year success over the next. Can you run reports, set up your automations? These are the things that you want to do. And if you're in for a good cause, are you getting the most out of it? Are you? Because I bet you're not, right? The integrations, ask Ron and his team. If you're looking to, add in little green light, that's fabulous. But you got to make it all connect. You got to do the work to make it work. And so that is your next step, is to look at your data. And it's not a dumping ground. It's hidden gold. You want to make sure that it is where you want it to be, or at least it's headed in the right direction. And then, can you get out of it what future prospects? So that is what I have for you today.
Danielle, this has been fantastic. I took some notes myself. I've got some things that we're already working on with the team to load in and straight out of your stuff here. So I'm really excited. Really appreciate your time today. If anybody has questions, you can drop them in the chat. I have a couple myself.
All right.
Okay. So you mentioned the wealth screening. You guys do that as a service.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, the accuracy of that data. It's public, but is it accurate? And how far do you rely on it? And then let's say that you do, something comes back and you see, oh, John Doe's got $1 million house. Like, what do you do next? How does that?
That's a great, that's a great question. So the thing I always say is that the wealth screening is, it's really used for prioritization. You got to take it with a huge grain of salt. And the more generic their name or the less information you have about them, the greater the level of inaccuracy. So if their name is Jim Jones or John Davis, or whatever I had, you're going to be more challenged to find information that's specifically about them and doesn't get confused with other people. If even if they have a very plain name, but you have their employer and their spouse's name and their address, every level gets you more accuracy. The thing I like about it, the way we use it is prioritization, right? It's one more tool to say, I just started and I'm the new ED and there are 600 people on this list and I don't know any of them. I can pull a list and I can say, who are the people that donate to us the most? But what is their capacity? What else have they done? Have they given to similar organizations? We can run the wealth screening and then we prioritize people from there. And what that data is, not just real estate records, political giving, but anytime someone's name is published in a donor list on a website or in an annual report that's online, anytime it's out there, it's publicly available. The thing about this tool that we pay for is that I could spend all day Googling, and you can have ChatGPT look it up, but it's all sort of in there. What happens is we upload your donor and their address, and it gives us presumed information down to like what religion they think they are. Are they Caucasian? Are they Hispanic, African American? Again, got to take it with a grain of salt. I wouldn't call them up and be like, hey, we think you're African American. Right. We think you're interested in our program. But it is a way to prioritize. So I'm going to focus on these 10 people, then these 10 people. I'm going to send them information. I'm going to help educate them about who we are and what we do. It's a way to prioritize your time and efforts until you do learn more about them. And then you put that in your system and like, that's a no-go. Let's build a relationship with this person. Let's invite them for a tour. So it's a tool, but it's not the end all be all. And I would not make any hard, fast decisions about it. But I mean, we've seen some really incredible information come from it and be able to use it, particularly when if someone's giving at a much higher level to a similar organization, that right away sends a red flag that if they're doing 5,000 for them and 100 for you, there's a disconnect in either their awareness or their relationship with you. And that's an opportunity to educate them and build that relationship. So it just sort of shines flashlight on it.
Yeah. The richer the profile, the more information that you've got there. So it looks like we do have a couple questions from Sarah. Does For Good Cause have online payments and profiles integrated into the CRM? Yeah, we do have donor profiles in there. And Sarah, I certainly could show you kind of how they work offline. Be happy to do that. And then how much email Or direct mail is too much or too little?
Good question. Question. So first and foremost, I think more is better. I'll just lay that out. I think in this digital world, it is harder and harder to cut through the noise. And so hard copy, it just cuts through. I also think that most organizations I work with don't ask enough. So if you're only asking in November or December for the end of year giving, you're missing an opportunity. I think organizations should ask at least 3 times a year. Maybe not always just for general op, but maybe feature a different story or a different client story, a different program or service. Donors will self-select, right? They're going to say, now's not a great time, or that's not a program that I care about right now, or it's just not speaking to them. They'll self-select what they want. But if you don't ask, they don't know. And for every one person that's like, stop mailing me so much, there are 100 people that would have donated to you. I promise you that is 100% the truth. I think a good mix is often is to make sure that for every one time you're asking, you're teaching and communicating 2 other times. You're sending an annual report or an email newsletter or a hard copy newsletter or just a little email, right? It doesn't even have to be fancy. You can just send an email that's like, here's a success story from this week, or this mom emailed me thanking us for helping her son, and here's what she said. And you can just send it from your email. It does not have to be MailChimp or fancy. But rule of thumb is ask multiple times a year. And for every time that you ask, make sure that at least 2 times you are not asking. You're just communicating, spreading the word, celebrating, giving a success story, explaining what you do, something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Emails exactly the same way. The more you send, you know, the more they're going to give, the more they're going to feel connected to you. Absolutely. One last question from me, and I'm thinking about, someone day to day. I come in, it's 9 o'clock, on a Monday, and every day I come in Monday through Friday. What should I be doing? Do I jump into my CRM the very first thing in that day? Like, what's my day to day look like? Or do you have, uh, a little kind of day to day recommendation that you have? Like, okay, like I know we've had some folks on. They've talked about, okay, Mondays is I'm going to spend 20 minutes on social media, and then I'm going to do this. And how much time are you in the CRM each week, and how do you plan that?
That's a great question. I often say 30 minutes a day or 1 hour a week in cultivation. And that's sending thank you notes, sending thank you emails, inviting people to come tour or coffee or whatnot. And I would say probably in the same respect, I would do the same amount of time on your data. I would say 20, 30 minutes. Honestly, no, I'm going to backtrack on that. I would say purposefully, I would spend an hour a week on your data.
Okay.
I would say the easiest thing though is to do it when you're in it. So if you're entering a gift, if you email a donor, if you're setting up a coffee, you're in their profile, you're scanning it for errors, because there will be errors.
Right.
You're going to correct whatever. Just do it while it's in there. You're not like the old Marie Kondo, like cleaning your house thing, right? Feng shui, whatever.
Right.
Like if you wait a month to clean up your house, it's like a thing, and you hate it and you dread it, and people are, your children are angry. Like just do it every day. Pick up the socks, fix the bullet point, fix the gift record, like just do it, and just set about a mindset that every time you touch your data, you're fixing or cleaning something, and have that be the same case for the other people that are in your data. The other thing I highly recommend is, if you can, you have someone who is like the champion of your data, right? A volunteer, a senior volunteer, or an Uber intern, or your administrative assistant. Someone owns and loves that data on a daily basis. That is like magic.
Absolutely. Danielle, this has been fantastic. Thank you for being here. I want to encourage everybody out there to listen to your podcast,
Thank you.
Fundraising Unfiltered. I know there's a very interesting episode on monthly donor magic.
There is, and it was so good.
Thanks for being here. Everybody, I'm going to probably get the recording out probably tomorrow, or at the latest Monday. Sarah, thanks for your feedback.
Thank you, Sarah. That's awesome.
Nice. That's very nice. I hope that everybody can join us next time for Good Cause office hours. We will be going over our new integration with Little Green Light. As I say, we're building up our donor database all the time, but also integrating with other things that people out there use. And I know Danielle's a big fan. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks for what you're doing in your communities to change the world. And we'll see you next time.